Hi, I'm Kevin Trainer. Welcome to the course Introduction and Syllabus Review for the fall 2021 teaching of IS455, uh, Database Design and Prototyping, and this is for Section AO. And we're peering right now at a copy of um, the Canvas page, and I'm realizing that we're not looking at the student version of it. So let's look at that. So I clicked on the right button. This is what yours should look like when you're there. Okay, the first thing is recent announcements. Okay, then we have course identity. That seems like an interesting thing to have. Why do we need that? Well, because up in the upper left-hand corner, it's just the course code. Gee, that's nice. It'd be nice to know what course we're looking at. So I put together a little section with a document with the name of our course section and the name of the course, Database Design and Prototyping. That's because we weren't given a proper title from Canvas. Okay, so I've organized this in the same kind of order that I would organize a Moodle page. Okay, so if you've ever had a course with me where we did the course administration on Moodle, this will look familiar. Okay, so at the very top we have resources we want to access quickly. So I've called those resources for quick access. We have a copy of the syllabus, and we'll go there in a minute. We have the weekly schedule for this course. I put in the modifier detailed so it would remind you that all the information about each week of the course is there. Canvas has a schedule-oriented feature. It's improved over the years. I'm an old user of Canvas, and now I'm back to Canvas again after having used Moodle. I have my own application for the schedule information for this course. So week by week, it's information on what times we're going to meet, what the deadlines are for things, okay? And we'll be going through the details of that shortly. There's a forum for open discussion, okay? This is a great place for students to interact with other students, okay? I will visit from time to time, okay? But if you have something you need from me, either you need me to do something having to do with the course or to help you with a problem that you're having, the place to go is the service desk for this course. It's not to open discussion. Will I get the questions that get posed in open discussion? I might. Okay, but if you really want to be absolutely sure that you get it as soon as possible, you're going to want to do it on the service desk and not the open discussion forum. Okay. Zoom meetings. So we have a section that we can go to that lists all the meetings on Zoom that we're going to have, and it's organized according to the calendar, and we have class session, lab session. Okay, at the end of every class, either because the regular parts ended early or because we're hanging around after, we're going to have online lab time. And then there's a dedicated time, there's a dedicated lab time on Sunday. Okay? You ought to be able to get some help on any of those. And as we go through the semester, these keep floating to the top. Okay? Okay, course information. Okay, so what's here? Well, details about the course, the instructor, and the TA. So here's information about the name and numbers of the course. It meets on Tuesday evenings online. I'm the instructor. There is a TA. I know who that individual is, but we've not gone through the final formalities of getting them started. Okay, so I will be announcing the TA shortly. Okay. The best way to contact either of us is going to be through the service desk for this course. I didn't ask for that little thing to pop up in front of us. So use the service desk. If you don't have something that's appropriate, I'm sorry. So you can, I don't have conventional office hours. Okay. If you need help, go to one of the online lab times. If that's not appropriate, then we'll schedule an individual meeting on Zoom. Okay. You can use the service desk to put in an individual meeting request, and we'll work out a time that works for both of us. Okay. The primary way to contact me is to use the service desk for this course. Okay. It's going to happen the fastest, and we're least likely to have problems, and we're most likely to have a good outcome. I'm going to be announcing the the TA, TBA soon. Okay. Now you go down from course information section to your preferred name. What's all that about? Well, it's really important to us, and by us I mean the iSchool and me as an instructor, and of course the TA and your classmates. We do our best to address you as you wish to be addressed. Okay, and that's going to have to do, the easiest way to help that along is for you to go and set your preferred name in the systems that we're going to be using. Now it says here Moodle and Zoom, but that's an anachronism. It should be Canvas and Zoom. Okay, there is an instruction document on how to get this changed. Okay, so follow the instruction document that I have a link to right here. Okay, that's setting your preferred name. Okay, contact us. Who's us? The TA and I. Okay, you may have you may be trying to do some coding, you're having a problem. Okay, you may have a question about the assignment. You may have some sort of issue that you'd like to raise on a grade that we gave you and make a regrading request. Okay, well, how do you best contact us? Well, go to this section. It's going to say you're going to use the service desk for this course. Okay. This will take you to the application. Okay. I went right to a page where I can do something because I'm logged in. Okay. You'll get a login page. And of course, I have a whole section in your week 1 activities that includes a tutorial on how to use the service desk system for this course. Okay, but that's the link to it. And if you want to know more about it, you can go to the service desk information page. Okay, so I have a link for that as well. Okay, here's the link to the tutorial on how to use the service desk for this course. And here's a copy of the slides. I've got two other modules here. One is submit assignments, and I just have the first two hand-in assignments shown. On September 5th, we're going to have due the Chapter 3 My Guitar Shop exercises. On September 12th, Chapter 4 My Guitar Shop exercises. Okay. I will be posting others. We imported some of the data here from Canvas, and I've had to change the dates on these, so there's a lot of work to do. And then I'm going to be posting assignment solutions right before class. I am going to post my version of the solutions that we're going to talk through. Okay, we're going to compare your versions to each other and your versions to mine, and we're going to try to have a good discussion on, well, what amount of deviation that we see is within good practice norms, and what amount of deviation are opportunities for improvement. Okay? Okay, so in order to do that, I'm going to be posting my solutions to these things right before class. Okay, so that's all the parts of our Canvas page. What did we promise to go through that we haven't done? Well, the syllabus, okay, and just take a quick peek at that. So here's the syllabus. What's of interest to us right now? The name of the course, the semester, the course number, and section number. The instructor, the TA is not announced yet, but will be very soon. We're going to be meeting on Tuesday evenings from 6 to 8. We have two optional labs. One at the end of a regular class on Tuesday, especially convenient if we end early. And then one from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Sunday mornings. Okay? If you have any special circumstances, that means that you really need to work with me individually on some lab things, well then contact me through the service desk and we'll do our best to set that up. And there's other information here on office hours and all that other stuff. Okay, I'm going to pause this. Let's go look at the schedule because I think that's a better way to organize our thinking about the course. Okay. Okay, so the other link that we promised to go explore was the schedule. Okay, so the schedule lands you on the index page. There's a weekly page, a weekly schedule page for each week in the semester, beginning on the week starting August 23rd. The 17th week of the semester is always officially part of the calendar, but there's usually not a lot happening. It's usually the very end of exam period or something like that. Okay. So it's the first 16 that really count. Okay. And I'm going to walk you through all of them. The first one in a little more depth, and then the others in more of a cursory way. So to go to the first week, I'd like to point out that it's organized so each of these content blocks, okay, is an event during the week. So the first one is our class session on Tuesday evening from 6 to 8. The second block has to do with a lab session that we have on Sunday morning from 9 to 10. Okay. And the very last part has to do with the weekly assignments that are due for this week on Sunday by 11:55 p.m. Okay, they all have to do with computing setup. And this includes sending a greetings post on the service desk for this course, choose your computer, install MySQL Community Server and MySQL Workbench, and load Maroc 3E data. That's the data that comes with our textbook. Okay, so that's the weekly assignments. Okay, we've gone through that. I talked about on Sunday morning from 9 to 10, we're going to have a dedicated online lab session. Some people who come have a problem with something that we're doing. Okay. Either some assignment we're doing or some future assignment or some past assignment. They've got a real question. They've got a question to ask. They've got code to show. They've got some kind of problem that they want help in getting solved. Okay. What we do is we deal with people in pretty much a first come, first served basis. Um, um, One thing that happens while we're looking at the code of each of the people or we're going through their questions is that some people who come after them in line hear the answer to their question because a person ahead of them had the same question or a closely related one. Okay, so a lot of times when I'm going down the list, I'll call on a person and they'll go, oh, you know what? 2 people ago, somebody had the same problem. So thanks for asking, but already solved. Okay. Some other people come even when they don't have a problem or question on their mind. They want to know what other people are thinking. They just want to say hi. Okay. I call these the serious lurkers. Okay, and they bring a lot to the session. Some of them are people who have a lot of good ideas, a very good eye for what might be wrong for a particular piece of code, for example. Um, and so, even if you're thinking you might want to drop by just to see what's going on and uh, you know, join in, please do. Okay. We're glad to have you. All right, and then what's the class for the week? Okay, well, um, the first couple of classes we're getting up to speed. Okay, here in week 1, we're doing a course startup. Okay, so you're going to be reviewing the syllabus and schedule with me now when you're playing this. We're going to be doing introductions of each of us individually in the class during our class session. And then we're going to talk about 2 chapters that we're reading, Apple Chapter 1 and Apple Chapter 2. And that's going to be an introduction to data modeling and relational model components. And just to give you a little bit of a preview of why we're talking about those things, those are both important chapters, important issues that we want to be thinking about in anticipation of the database design stuff that we're going to be ending the course with. So we do a little bit to set the stage here in week 1 of, yeah, we eventually want to be able to design our own databases. So what does that mean? Where are we headed? Okay, so we talk about that a little bit in week 1. We break off of that and then we do a bunch of weeks in a row, almost all the way to the end. Certainly more than, well, maybe 3/4 of the way through. Okay, and we go through a bunch of chapters in the Joel Maroc book, chapters 1 through 12. Okay, and we learn how to use MySQL databases. We learn how to do queries. We learn how to design a simple database. We learn how to implement a simple database, and we learn how to do all that. Then we're eventually going to come back in the very end, and we're going to do 3 important sections on data modeling, conceptual data modeling, logical database design, and physical database design. Those are the three final things. So here in week one, we're giving you a bit of a preview of that stuff so that when we come to it, you're going to say, oh, this is graduate school. Because of that, if we're going to do relational databases, we want to make sure we do a decent amount of thoughtful design work. Okay, so that's where we're really headed for the class, but you can't design these things unless you know how to use them. Okay, because learning to design them well, if you've never used them, is a very challenging thing to do. So we break away starting week 2 and we learn how to use them. Okay, but we eventually come back to how to design them. Okay, and that's where we're going to in week 1. Now we're going to go through the other weeks much faster in terms of us reviewing this site. Okay, so in the coming week, in week 2, I've decided to call this Getting Started with Relational Databases and SQL. Okay, so what's this whole technology about? What tool are we going to use? We're going to be using this tool, MySQL Workbench. And then let's get started on the skills. We're going to do chapters 1, 2, and 3 from the Maroc book. Chapter 3 is one that really has a set of exercises. Here's where we learn how to retrieve data from a single MySQL table. Okay, so that's what we're doing in week 2. And week 4, we learn how to retrieve data from multiple tables. That's a more typical query in a SQL database. Okay, so we're becoming chapter 4, how to retrieve data for 2 or more tables. Okay, we go on there to chapter 5 from the Maroc book. Modifying database content is the general theme for the week. The chapter that we cover is Maroc chapter 5, how to insert, update, and delete data. And note, before we do that, in your average class, we're going to spend up to half of the class talking about our collective solutions to last week's assignment. Okay? Just because you did them and handed them in, we're far from done. Okay? We want to have a common understanding of what good practices are, what maybe some bad practices are that some of us could see, but maybe others of us could not. Okay? We're going to have a full experience there. In week 5, we're going to be covering summary queries. SQL is a language in which you tell the database server exactly, you describe the answer that you're looking for and some details about how to implement the query. But in general, you're saying, this is the answer I want. Okay. And we not only want kind of one line at a time answer, okay, but sometimes we want to take what would be a number of lines and summarize them into a report. Okay, and that's what the summary query feature is for. So we're going to be covering Maroc chapter 6, how to code summary queries. Very nice chapter. In week 6, we're going to be covering how to code subqueries. And where we're going to, in chapter 7, we're going to be covering how to work with data types in chapter 8. In chapter 7, subqueries are always a way to take a part of a query and instead of hard coding a value, putting a little query within the query. a good example, one of the first things that we'd look at is we want to show all the invoices that are higher than the average invoice amount. Okay. Well, we don't want to just run the query and find out the current average here today and hard code that value into the query. No, we want to see all the ones that are greater than the average invoice amount on the day that we run the query. Okay. So that requires a little query within a query called a subquery. That's what chapter 7's about. It has a lot of power. It has a lot of convenience. It's something that you're going to like. In chapter 7, we move on to how to use functions. Okay, so there are a lot of classic programming functions that are part of the expressions that you can use in SQL. And we're going to learn, we'll have already learned a couple before we've gotten here to chapter 9. And in chapter 9, we're going to catch up, and we're going to do all of the important functions. In week 8, we're going to take our first look at database design. We are we're going to do how to design a database on chapter 10. And then on week 9, we're going to continue on with the Maroc book. We're going to do 2 units. Chapter 11 is how to create databases, tables, and indexes. That's how to write the SQL code that becomes the schema, and how to create views. Views are a temporary alternative to permanent tables. We're going to learn how to do that in chapter 12. Then we move on to week 10. When we finished up with week 9, we have finished with the Maroc book. Okay, there's a lot of other interesting chapters in the Maroc book that you may want to look at on your own eventually. But as for this course, we're done with the Maroc book. And we're going to work on a 3-week, 3-unit, more sophisticated approach to data modeling, to database design than is taken in the Maroc book. Okay, the Maroc treatment that we had in chapters 10 and 11 are interesting, and they're a very good, easy way to start to think about simple database design. Okay, as we move on, we're going to be working with the OPL text. Okay, and we're going to do a more thoughtful look at how to understand requirements for databases and how to do a design. It's going to be in a 3-step process on weeks 10, 11, and 12. Okay, so week 10, conceptual data modeling. We're going to be covering OPL chapter 5. And then in week 11, we're going to be doing logical database design. We're going to be covering OPL chapter 6, logical database design using normalization. And in week 12, we're going to be covering physical database design, the third classic step in designing and implementing a relational database solution. We're going to be covering OPL chapter 8, physical database design. Okay, that's the end of the content for this course. Okay, so for the rest of the weeks, we're going to be giving you the opportunity to, instead of working on weekly coding assignments, we're going to expect you to be working on the final project. So we're going to devote what would have been a class session on November 16th to an extra online lab session. There's going to be another online lab session that Sunday on November 21st. Week number 14 is the Thanksgiving holiday break, the fall break. Okay, and then we go back to work in week 15. Again, we're already working on the final projects. Okay, so that's what's going on. Instead of having a class on Tuesday evening, we're going to have an optional online lab for those of you who would like to come and work with me and us on their final projects. Okay. There's another online lab Sunday on Summit, online lab session on Sunday, December the 5th. Okay. There are no weekly assignments that are due in this week because we're working on the final project instead. And the final week of the course is week 16. Okay, there's always a week 17 in the schedule, but it's typically not anything that we actually participate in. So week 16 is the real last week of the course for us. Again, instead of having a class session on Tuesday, we're going to use it as an optional online lab. The final project is due on Friday night, just before midnight. The final project is it's a giant version of a weekly assignment. It's a small project with a bunch of tasks. I give you a logical database design. Your job is to turn it into a physical design and implementation and create the schema code for it. Then in addition to creating the schema, I give you a script to load the data into the database. And then I give you a series of 15 scripts that you need to create and hand in that really demonstrate the workflow of the business involved. Okay. I always kind of tune that up in the early parts of the semester and republish it. In this case, I expected to do it by November 1st. Okay, that's where you'll see the detailed content. Okay, so that's it. That is that's the schedule for the course. All right. That's our course schedule. Okay. Well, what does that leave us to talk about here? Well, we promised to review the syllabus. Let's do that. So let's fire up the syllabus. Okay. What's here on the syllabus? The title of the course, the semester, the course number and course section, the instructor, me, the TA, to be announced shortly, regular course sections. Let's see, regular course sessions are from 6 to 8 on Tuesday. Optional lab sessions, we just talked about those. There's one at the end of class on Tuesday, and then there's a dedicated one on Sunday morning for an hour from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. If you have a question, or if you have a problem, or if there's something you would like to talk about, I'll help you on a first come, first serve basis. Okay? If you're a student with a special circumstance, whereas you can't use those open online lab sessions, and you need to to work on scheduling some kind of individual session with me, well, use the service desk in order to make a request, an individual meeting request. Office hours. I do not hold conventional open office hours. So if you need help with your work, give strong consideration to um, the optional online lab sessions. Okay. If you have something confidential, um, or just something that you need to talk about with me more individually, uh, we can meet on Zoom. Just use the service desk for this course to put in an individual meeting request, and we'll do it. Contacting the instructor, me, or the TA, soon to be announced, rather than attempt to reach us by email or by phone or some other more conventional way, please use the service desk for this course. Okay. In the current week, I'm providing a tutorial on how to do that. We haven't had that tutorial for a long time. It's been pretty well received, so I'm hoping that it's going to work for you too. Okay. There's a link here in the syllabus to the service desk for this course. Again, I go right to the page where you see the different service requests that you can make. You probably will go to a page where you need to create a login. Okay, how would you learn how to do that? In the tutorial that goes along with this week. Okay. All right. So we were in the syllabus. There's a catalog, description, and list of topics and learning outcomes. I'm going to leave these for you to read. Let me say this more generally about what the course is about. This is a first course in using relational databases and how to do design of relational databases. Okay. It's a good graduate school course in which we do really a workmanlike job of learning how to use a relational database, and we do a good graduate school job of being thoughtful about relational data modeling and relational database design. This is a first course, okay? As a first course, it is engineered for newbies, okay? It's engineered for people who have no experience in relational databases, maybe no experience in programming, okay? Some technical skills. You know how to use your PC. Maybe you know how to use a spreadsheet. Clearly, you know how to log on onto Canvas, right? Okay, but not a lot of demonstrated aptitude for or experience with these kind of relational database tools. Okay, you can be completely new, or you may have some prior experience. So people with prior experience are welcome. We get people who we have people who are using SQL on the job, largely learned it on the job, want to learn it more formally. They are a great resource to the class because they can tell us how things are done in their workplace. What approach, do people take? A lot of us would like to know how things go on in the workplace. We've got some people who've just have had a class before and they haven't used it, and they've lost their dexterity. they're back to learn it again, hopefully in a more rigorous kind of way. Okay? You're all welcome, and I think we can keep you all interested. Okay? So this is a class where we mix prior experience and prior demonstrated aptitude. We take a wide range and we try to do that in a way that keeps everybody interested and everybody challenged. The textbook. There are two texts. There is the Joel Marak book, Marak's MySQL third edition. This is a great book. This is a how-to book having to do with relational databases in general and MySQL in particular. We cover chapters 1 through 12. It's a great book and very practical and a good one to have on your bookshelf. The other book that we have is this Andy Oppel book, Data Modeling: A Beginner's Guide. Uh, this is a this is a reference and a primer uh, written by a guy who is a really legitimate kind of old school database data modeling uh, uh, expert. And I think he really does a good job of showing you the craft of data modeling and database design in a practical but a very thoughtful way. Um, those are both fairly affordable technical books. Technology requirements. We're going to want you to have a computer to use for the course, ideally sort of a laptop that you can take to place with you. Um, and it should run either Windows 10 or a recent version of Mac OS. We do at the iSchool support Linux. There are Linux versions of all the software that we're going to be using. I'd rather you'd use Windows 10 or Mac OS because I'm able to offer you more support with those two operating systems. I'm not really a Linux client user. Okay, if you are, uh, and you want to take that lead, consult with me before you go off and get that done. But um, I'm completely happy to meet people who can make these tools work well and support them in a Linux environment. There's a link here to the course schedule. We've already been there. Okay. The following are descriptions of parts of the course elements. We begin with the readings. Okay. Um, uh, the readings are going to be when we're covering the Maroc book, they'll be in the Maroc book. When we're doing data modeling and database design, they'll be in the Andy Oppel book. Um, they all are, uh, I would say, comprehensive and useful. Okay. The next thing I'm going to have is I'm going to have live lectures and lecture videos. Um, uh, there are lectures that I've recorded for all the chapters that have to do with the Joel Mrock book, chapters 1 to 12. Uh, in the weeks that we're talking about the Andy Oppel book, historically I've done those parts live during the class. I may be recording them. Now we're a number of weeks away, and I'm just going to have to see uh, how it all comes together. Okay. Um, in the times when I record lectures, they are going to cover the text. Okay. Um, in some graduate courses, we don't lecture on other readings. In some technical graduate courses, we do. Okay. So you're going to have to do some readings, do some listening to lecture, as say for the ones that are recorded, see how much they overlap, see which is really providing the value to you, and then just come up with a usage pattern that works the best for you. Okay? Um, Tutorial videos. I've got some tutorial videos that kind of show you how to get software installed and that kind of stuff in the beginning of the course. I do have some tutorial videos that are kind of coordinated with parts of the coding assignments, and there's a tutorial video for typically for the final project. Um, Generally speaking, tutorial videos address things that are not in any kind of reading, so um, they're definitely important to play. Coding assignments are going to be really weekly until we get to the very end of the course and we begin to work on the final project. Um, they typically will be like the end of chapter exercises for the chapters that we're covering, except they won't be exactly those. Okay. Um, I have come up with exercises that are, um, well, when we're working in the Joel Maroc book, he has a supplemental group of exercises called My Guitar Shop. So we're going to be doing those. Those correspond almost one for the exercises that are in the back of the chapter. The solutions to the exercises in the back of the chapter, that's part of what we download during our computer prep work on our weekly assignments. Um, Coding assignments, they're really important that you try them, that you make a good faith effort, that you get them in on time. Okay? These are all things that when you see the solution, it'll look obvious. Okay? And then if you went and tried to do it for yourself, you might get stuck. Okay? Do all the assignments, do them on time. If you get stuck, you get stuck. Put enough down to show that you made a good faith effort. Okay? You'll come to class. I'll publish my solution right before class. We'll break up into groups and we'll compare solutions. And you'll come to either see why you have the right solution. You might find about some alternative solutions that you might want to think of. Or if you didn't get it, then you're going to know why, and you're going to have some ideas about how to solve that problem. Okay? For me, it's more important that you try it and hand it in on time than that you hand it in late and hand it in perfectly. Okay, because the learning's going to go in the beginning of the next class when we're reviewing solutions and really thinking about best practices, alternative good solutions, all those kinds of things. And if you didn't get it done on time, you're not going to get the full value. So um, I give a guarantee on points on these coding assignments. So if you hand them in on time and you follow naming conventions and project organization conventions and all those kind of things, and if you make a good faith effort on all parts, if you meet those three criteria, then you're guaranteed to get at least an 85. Okay. And then even if things come completely off the rails and you're far from the right solution, you'll get a good solid B. So even people who have this expectation that they're going to get an A in the course, uh, it can survive one or two Bs. There'll be no disaster grades on homework if you do them on time, organize and name everything right, and make a good faith effort on all parts. The other element of the course is the final project. Okay, the final project is a project that we do for a fictitious small business. I'll give you the logical database design. You'll do the physical database design and implementation. I'll give you the data and you'll load it and you'll run through. You'll have to write and run 15 different scripts. Okay. Now I tune that up all the time, and I'll be tuning that up for our semester, and I'll be publishing around the 1st of November. Attendance is important at the iSchool. We expect students to attend all of the classes unless there's some kind of emergency or exceptional circumstances. If you do have an emergency or exceptional circumstances, we expect you to play the recording. If you can't find the recording, call the high school help desk. And participation is going to be a big portion of the class. It represents about 10% of the overall grade. And what you could expect this kind of thing to do is that this is going to have a small influence on your grade, kind of up or down by a point or two. Okay, it's grade on a scale of 100 to 100, of 1 to 100, using kind of a typical scale. It gets graded on a curve. We add up all of your participation points in all the categories, and the person with the highest number of participations scores 100 points, and the person with the medium number of participation points scores an 85. And then I pick a number of participation points for a 75 and a 65. And people who accumulate fewer than 10 participation points get a 0. So for most people, depending on how close to the median they are, or how close to the highest number of participation points earned they are, that's going to have a few points up or down influence on your final grade. Okay. If you're foolish enough to get fewer than 10 points, you're gonna miss an entire letter grade. What would have been an A will be a B. What would have been a B plus will be a C plus. Okay, so you definitely don't want that to happen. Now, what things are you going to earn participation points for? Make a greeting post on the service desk in the first 2 weeks of the course. When you're making a speaking contribution during class, when you're typing into the chat during class, when you are presenting your solution. If in the course of us reviewing solutions, you get the chance to present yours, you earn points. We break out to discuss the solution. If you act as the spokesperson for your group when we come back from the breakout, then you'll earn points. Okay. Now, I've got a bunch of policies here, and um, I wish I didn't have to have them. Um, a very small number of people over the years have come to misunderstand the grading policies sort of implied by this course. And so I use the same ones for each of my courses, for all of my courses. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to read through them. They have a sort of a caption or title to each of the sections that kind of sums up the section. And I just want to, I encourage you to read the details, but I want to give you the highlights. So, iSchool and University Grading Policies Apply. So there is a section after this one that has a list of the important iSchool and university policies, and I'll talk about them in a few minutes, but realize that some of them have applications to grading and they're going to be considered first and foremost. The next point is that careful attention to detail is required. This kind of information work is very detail oriented. So the course is very detail oriented. The assignments and the grading are going to be very detail oriented. So you're going to want to, for instance, compare your work product. You're probably going to want to review that against the grading rubric for the assignment and the directions and make sure that you've taken advantage of all the opportunity to get points. Some things that you might consider insignificant are going to be significant in the grading. So make sure you read very carefully, pay a lot of attention to detail. Assignment resubmissions are not permitted. So in some courses, there's this kind of expectation that, no, maybe you don't just get an assignment and you'll hand it in again. Okay. And you'll get, to resubmit it once or maybe a number of times. And, you just want to be able to demonstrate the fact that you do it. Well, this course isn't organized that way or graded that way. Okay. I do have sort of the points guarantee deal for the coding assignments. And that gives you kind of grade support. Okay, so if you manage to come off the rails accidentally in a particular week, well, you're going to find out about it and learn the right information when we review the solutions. We're not going to have you resubmit the assignment. It takes enough to grade these things one time, but we can't. It's not feasible to be grading them 2 and 3 and more times. So no resubmissions of either the coding assignment or the final project. Deadline extensions do happen. Okay. People have some kind of extenuating or emergency circumstances and they make a case. If you want an extension, please apply before the deadline using the service desk and give your rationale for it. Okay, it's easier for me to extend a deadline when I'm extending it not past the beginning of the next class. Okay, for the for the coding assignments. For the final project, we have to hand in final grades at a certain point. So some amount of extension is feasible and some amount of it is infeasible. But you're not going to get an extension if you don't make a request before the deadline on the service desk. Deductions will be made for late submissions. So the grading rubric for coding assignments and the grading rubric for the final project have substantial subtractions for late submissions. So if they're late, they're late. Of course, if you are granted an extension, then you know, you won't be late if you're within the extension time. Assignments submitted too late will not be graded. So we won't keep the grading open for a particular assignment um, indefinitely. So on coding assignments, if it's more than 14 days late, it's too late on the final project because we have to get the grades in. If it's more than 7 days late, it's too late. Now, if you have extenuating circumstances and that you think you're entitled to an extension of the too late deadline, well, make your case for that by opening a request for an extension on the service desk. The next point is sort of implied by a lot of things that I've said before, but I'm going to make this explicit. Number 7 here, grade adjustments will be limited to automatic rounding. So I get a fair amount of requests for grade adjustments, usually angst that people have about what they're going to get in their final grade. And usually people like right on a boundary. They're just into B plus and they would want to be an A minus. Or I've even gotten the occasional, they're in A and they're less than there's some fraction of a point short of A plus. They have these expectations that they need to get an A of some variety and getting the A minus, or they need to get an A plus, and they're bound and determined to be disappointed by anything less than some way to cross the boundary. So they'll come up with ideas like, well, just give me half a point, or give me more for this, or allow me to resubmit that, or allow me to do some extra credit work. And so then we get down to number 7, which is to say, no, the only grade adjustments that will be made will be limited to automatic rounding. Okay? That said, regrading requests made using the service desk will be given fair considerations. So if you get your grade on an assignment and you think, I don't think they really saw what was here, or they were misled by this, and if they really understood what I had here, I would have gotten a different grade. Well, read our feedback form, okay? If you're still convinced that there's a misunderstanding of some kind, that we've made a mistake, well then open a ticket on the service at desk for a regrading request, and we'll give it fair consideration. Number 9, extra credit opportunities are not available. So this comes down to students who are disappointed in their grade and are very close to some kind of a threshold between, a B and a B plus, or a B plus and an A minus, and if they just got an opportunity to do a little bit more, well, the opportunities passed. Okay, so there won't be extra credit. We won't be resubmitting assignments. There won't be anything other than basic, simple rounding. That being said, number 10, Coding assignment submissions that meet certain criteria are subject to a minimum score guarantee. Well, that's the 85 deal, which says if you turn it in on time and you organize it, name it correctly, and you make a good faith effort on all parts and show evidence of that, then you get a guarantee of 85. There's a lot of incentive to do this. If you do this, you're going to learn a lot. The participation grade, again, you accumulate points mostly during class sessions, but there are 10 points for students who follow the recommendation and send a greetings post to the service desk for the course by the end of week 2. You earn 10 participation points, which is massive. So you'd be foolish to not get that done during weeks 1 and 2. Apart from that, during class, various things can happen that earn you points. You might, even outside of class, you might do a post or reply on the open discussion forum. That'll get you a point. You might make a speaking contribution during class. Doing that will get you 2 points. You might type in a chat contribution during class. That'll get you 1 point. You might be one of the people who presents a coding assignment because it's important for us to look at. That'll get you 5 points. Or you might act as the presenter for your group after a breakout session. That'll get you 5 points. Again, your participation grade, if you're kind of in the running, okay, if you're actually participating in the course, it's probably going to move the grade that you had before that for all the coding assignments. It's going to change your average. It's going to shift it up or down, okay, because this is going to be graded on a curve. So the person with the median number of participation points is going to get an 85, which is a B. Okay, and the person with the greatest numbers of participation points is going to get 100. Okay, and then I'm going to pick the level at which you get 75 or a C and a 65 a D. And if you earn fewer than 10 participation points, you're going to get 0. So if you get a 0, that's going to lower you by an entire letter grade. Okay, that should never happen. Okay, but the difference, between having the median score and getting 85 and having the top score of getting 100 is a point and a half, right? And so think about that, because it would be a difference of 15 points in your participation grade, and the participation grade has a weight of 10%, so it'd be a tenth of that. So it's going to put you up by a point and a half, or it may pull you down by a point and a half. Okay, so that's the way to think of participation. It's not going to have a great amount of points pushing you up or pulling you down either way. If you're in the relevant kind of range, okay? But that's the kind of thing that it can do. The last point having to do with attendance is attendance at sessions is not graded directly, but because you need to attend to earn almost all these participation points, uh, uh, your attendance is going to be required in order for you to get the participation grade, and so your attendance may affect your grade. So the basis for determining the grade, again, participation is 10% of the grade. The coding assignments are 45%. The final project is 45%. Um, I'd say that the easy of these is the coding assignments, because there's a grade support there that gets you at least an 85 if you don't fall down and make some horrible, you know, not hand it in on time, or not make a good faith effort, or something like that. Okay. The participation, well, you have to work for your points, and uh, it's going to get you up or down a couple of points. Okay. The final project, you have to earn every point. There's no grade support, right? You have to earn every point on the final project. Okay. So it's pretty challenging, maybe a little different the way a lot of courses are organized, but uh, we want you to build your skills and your confidence on the coding assignments, so you're ready to do a great job on the final project. The table I have here, in which we convert the number grades to letter grades, is pretty standard. Okay. Uh, Remember, the only adjustments that I'm going to make between the number grades and the letter grades is I'm going to apply simple rounding to your grade for the whole course. And we talked about that already. So things that have fractional values, point 0 through 0.4 will be rounded down, and things that have fractional values 0.5 through 0.9 will be rounded up, and that will be it. It will be disappointing for people who are right on the edge of these boundaries. I rarely get contacted by people who are surprised positively when things round up. That's just human nature. But there will be people who are kind of disappointed when things are less than halfway between points, and so they get rounded down, and they miss some kind of threshold here, and it leads to disappointment. And again, I'm disappointed too, and I share in your grief, but again, the only adjustments that are going to be made to grade are going to be simple rounding. Okay, now the very last part of the syllabus is kind of funny, because it's both potentially boring and very important. Okay, so how's it potentially boring? Well, it's potentially boring in that even though these are important subjects, the language we see here is standard. And in documents, we often say that the standard text that goes at the end of it, or in some typical part, it's boilerplate. It's a kind of standard issue. Okay, so that's kind of mundane. That's kind of boring. Okay, so if you've already seen these and you already understand these, great. Okay, yeah, you can tune out. That's fine. All right, but if you're new to this, okay, and you haven't seen these, and of course you can only figure out whether you've seen them by reading them, right? Then please pay attention, because they're very important. We've got policies here from the university or the ISCO on incomplete grades, academic integrity, statement of inclusion, religious observances, accessibility, COVID-19. Okay? Now, my role is to be your first point of contact on a lot of these things. So, uh, if you can figure out what to do or how these things apply to you and how to get the help that you need or answer any questions that you have, well, great. But if you need some help, then feel free to come to me. I'm here to help. Will I always be the direct person with the answer? Well, no, probably not. But I'll be able to direct you and put you in contact with people who, can explain or who can help. Okay. So please feel free to use me for that. So that's the syllabus, right? And that's the last part of um, the content. I just want to focus on again. Let's go to the weekly schedule and let's just look at what we're going to do for week one. Okay. So we're doing the startup for the course. You're playing this video, so you're reviewing the syllabus and the schedule. When we get together during our first class session, we're going to do the introductions, where we're all going to introduce ourselves and kind of think about how how we relate to what's in the course and what the goals are and how they match up with what we want to get out of it. Okay, and then we're going to have some discussion of the first two chapters of the Andy Oppel book, so we know where we're headed. Again, this is a book about data modeling and database design, and that's what our course is about. But again, you can't really do thoughtful design until you've learned how to do kind of ordinary usage and ordinary design. So this is our taste of where we're going with the course at the very end. Okay. The syllabus you should read, the two chapters of Apple you should read. The videos, I hope you'll have played. The second of these is the one you're listening to right now. Other resources are some things that I talk about in the recordings. During the first class session that we're going to have, you're going to introduce yourself. It'll take a couple of minutes. Read through here to set your expectations about that. We're going to have at the end of the class, the first class, to the extent we've got time left, we'll use the rest of the time for lab time. I will hang around to answer questions even past the end of class. Okay, on Sunday morning from 9 to 10, we're going to have a dedicated lab time, so please come by then. And then we've got a bunch of things that we need to hand in. Well, it's not really hand in things. We've got the greetings post to the service desk. That's going to get done in the first 2 weeks of the course in order to earn your 10 points. The rest of the things are things that just have to be done in terms of choosing your computer, installing the MySQL software, and loading the data from the textbook onto your computer. Okay, so that's what we're looking to for the first week. I'm looking forward to meeting all of you in our first class. And until then, I'm going to say bye. Bye bye.